I was visiting my dad last week and he shared this incredible story, the kind of story that I was like, Dad, why did you not share this before? There's so many cool lessons in here, but the story is this. So my dad grew up in China, and during the Cultural Revolution, you couldn't really go to school. You couldn't really go to university. And after the Cultural Revolution, they started accepting people back. My dad applied to college. He had to sit for this nationwide exam. And I think that's still the case in China today. There's this big exam that determines not only what school you go to, but what you major in. And my dad loved math, he loved physics, the hard sciences. So he sat for the exam. And one day, some government officials showed up to his house asking for samples of his writing from schoolwork and things like that. Eventually, he figured out that they literally lost his exam. They just placed his paper in the wrong pile, and they were trying to match his handwriting to the exam. But it was too late, and by the time they sorted through all of that, all of the slots were gone, all of the good schools, all of the good majors, and he was offered a spot in agricultural studies in essentially the lowest ranked university in the country at the time. And naturally, he was really upset, right? And he was working on a state farm at this time. It was grueling hard work, but even then, he was like, I will stick it out for another year and I'll sit for the exam again next year and try again. Somewhere along the way, he learned that if he didn't accept the spot this time around, he would never be allowed to sit for the exam again. And so it was kind of like now or never. No one in his family had gone to college before. No one in his family had left the country before. And so it was a week after that classes had already started that he decided, okay, I'll go enroll. So he got his degree and he wanted to go to grad school after his undergrad. And in applying to grad school, there's another exam and you're able to put down two schools to apply to. And so he asked, what are the two best schools that I can go to for agricultural studies? And it was Beijing University and another one I can't remember the name of. No one told him at the time how long of a shot this was. No one said, hey, this is probably not possible. No one said, you're probably not going to get in because those are the best universities in the country. He just applied to the best two and he got in. He got into the Beijing University. And on the application, there was just a box you could check for if you're interested in study abroad programs. He said, sure, why not? He ticked the box. One day he got a telegram at home in his village. He got a telegram that he had been pre-admitted to the study abroad program at Beijing University and had to report to the Language Institute in a week. And so it was at the time a week's worth of travel for him to get from his small village in northwestern China to Beijing by truck, by train, by bus, like every mode of transport kind of cobbled together over the course of a week at the time. And because he had to report there in a week, he got the telegram in the morning and left in the afternoon. And this was in the winter where he had to travel by basically a covered truck for most of that week through the dead of winter in northern China. He got to the Language Institute and found out he had to take the TOEFL exam, this international English language exam. And so he would have a few weeks there to prepare for the exam. But up until this point, he had had 3 semesters of English in university, literally starting with ABCs. So he studied for the exam. Eventually, he got admitted. He left the country, went to grad school at UIUC, met my mother, and yeah, that's where I came from. But how cool is that? Like, there's so many things to take away from that story. Applying to the two best grad schools at the time because nobody told him he couldn't and nobody told him it wasn't possible. And taking the opportunities where they came, right? It wasn't what he had imagined. It wasn't this linear, planned out path. it was all of these surprises along the way, some of them good, some of them bad. But he took those opportunities and made the most of them. And it's such a cool thing to hear now in my 30s. My dad is in his 60s. And it's just amazing to see the path that he took and the openness that he had and the courage that he had. Of course, it was a lot of hard work along the way, a lot of hard work, a little bit of good luck, and a lot of just being curious and staying open and taking chances. So, what's something you might take a chance on if no one told you it was impossible? If you like this kind of content, it would mean so much to me if you would drop a like or a comment or a subscribe. I'm a life coach and I've learned a lot as a coach, and I'm still continuing to learn a lot as a human, and I would love to share some of that stuff here. I'm still figuring out exactly what I want to say, but I know I want to say something.